Welcome to Vault Studio.
This is Story Vault Studio. Riley thought she just had a lazy afternoon ahead of her. Chips, iced tea, a show she wasn't really watching. But outside, the sky was already turning into something the weather reports couldn't quite explain. Highs past 100 degrees and climbing. Then came a pounding on her door that wouldn't stop, and the last person she expected to see standing on the other side, the boyfriend she'd said goodbye to 10 years ago. He said he'd come back with a warning, that the world outside was about to change beyond anything she could imagine, and that this time, he wasn't leaving her to face it alone. What he knew and how he knew it would change everything. If you enjoy immersive stories like this, consider subscribing. Now, let's begin. Riley was curled up on the couch with a bag of chips and a cup of iced tea, halfway between a variety show and a mobile game, when she noticed something off. It was only May. There was no reason the afternoon light should feel this heavy, like the air itself had thickened. She reached for the thermostat without really thinking about it, dropped it to 78, and went back to not caring.
The show cut to a red banner before she'd finished her next bite. A weather anchor read out an emergency advisory. Highs past 107 today, more of the same tomorrow. Residents urged to stay indoors. Riley skimmed it and shrugged. She'd quit her job 3 weeks ago. No commute, no reason to go anywhere, except maybe to restock snacks later, and honestly, it was too hot out to make the delivery guy suffer for her cravings. That was the exact moment someone started pounding on her door like the building was on fire. A voice she hadn't heard in a decade shouted through the wood for her to open up. Her phone buzzed at the same time, an unknown number flashing across the screen. She answered it walking toward the door, and when she pulled it open, she froze completely. Because standing on her doorstep was Ethan Miller, the boyfriend she'd broken up with 10 years ago. Ethan? She blinked at him, utterly lost. What's going on? He didn't answer. He just grabbed her and pulled her into a crushing hug. Every hair on her body stood up at once, and she shoved him off so hard he stumbled back a step. Are you out of your mind? What was that for? She got a few good hits in before her arms finally gave out. Ethan covered his face with both hands, wincing through the aftermath. Are you done? Can I come in and actually talk? Looking at him now, red-cheeked and a little rattled, she realized she might have overdone it. Not that it hadn't felt good. Get in here. If you don't have a real reason for this, I'm not finished with you. She stepped aside to let him through, then asked almost automatically if he wanted something to drink. He asked for watermelon juice. She made it, handed it over, and dropped onto the couch across from him with an eyebrow already raised, waiting. He took one sip, and his whole face changed. Serious in a way she'd never seen on him before, not even when they were together. He told her the disaster was coming. Riley laughed, more out of disbelief than humor. 10 years apart, and he shows up to pitch her a doomsday story? She reminded him their breakup had been simple. He'd moved abroad after graduation, no cheating, no interfering parents, just two people who didn't want to do long distance. His eyes only got heavier. He said he'd been reborn, that he'd woken up thinking it was a dream at first, but it wasn't. In his last life, he'd still been overseas when the heat disaster hit, too far to get back in time. He'd pulled every string he had to get supplies to her, but by the time anyone reached her apartment, she was already deep in it, and looters had already broken in. She hadn't made it. 20 days from now, he said, the disaster would hit its full force, and it would start deceptively, a cold snap first, enough to make her doubt the warnings before flipping to heat so fast it wouldn't feel real. Something shifted in her head, quick and sharp, gone before she could hold on to it. Hold on. If anyone's getting reborn here, shouldn't it be me? Wasn't
I supposed to be the one stockpiling supplies and turning into some badass heroine? Why is it you? He went quiet for a second, throat working like the words had cost him something, before he forced the corner of his mouth back up. Guess it's just me. He grinned like the moment called for it. She knew that grin. It meant he wasn't going to stay serious for long, and she lunged at him before he could dodge, except he was faster than she remembered, darting out of reach until she finally timed it right and grabbed him, both of them going down together in a tangle on the floor. "You're dead now," she said, straddling him before he could recover. "Ow, really? Dead?" Her reflexes had beaten his, apparently. She pinned him and landed 2 more soft thumps for good measure. A decade hadn't changed a thing. The two of them still couldn't act civilized around each other for more than a minute. Okay, truce. He threw an arm over his face to block another hit. "I'm serious. It's really coming." Whatever else she thought of him, Riley knew Ethan well enough to know he wasn't the type to make something like this up. "Fine. So what's the plan?" He said he'd think about it, and the old urge to hit him flared right back up. He caught the look on her face and put his hands up fast. "Don't. Come on, let me show you our new place. It might surprise you." He took her to a house tucked inside an older residential block. Quiet without being isolated, the building staggered just enough to keep prying eyes out. He told her it had belonged to a local family for generations. Never sold, never listed anywhere a stranger could find it. By the time he said that, she believed every word. Nobody staged something this elaborate for a joke. From the outside, it looked unremarkable. Weathered stone tucked between its neighbors, nothing about it hinting at what was underneath. But the moment the front door closed behind them, the house revealed itself as a fully sealed thermal fortress. 8-layer insulated walls, double insulated ceilings, quadruple sealed windows built to withstand impact. Every layer designed to hold the outside world at bay. No matter how brutal it got outside, the interior stayed locked between 72 and 77 degrees, calm and even like a permanent spring. The real heart of the house was hidden behind the closet in the main bedroom, a gravity-sensitive hidden door disguised so well it looked like ordinary storage. A short staircase led down to a 15-centimeter blast and seal door, one that shut out heat, sound, and even smell the instant it closed. The basement split into 2 levels. The lower one was the core shelter, built 100 meters down. Geothermal exchange systems, fireproof and radiation shielded. Air filtration, water storage, thermally sealed food reserves, all of it accounted for. The upper level held supply shelves, a workspace, and a hidden ventilation shaft. Sealed and insulated top to bottom, the house promised to stay a pocket of calm no matter how the world outside came apart. Ethan explained, quietly, that the house had been in his family for generations. That the moment he woke up in this life, locking it down was the first thing he did. Best crew, best materials, redone top to bottom. Supplies, too. All handled, he said. He walked her through the supply room next, and she just stopped and stared. Vegetables, fresh meat, seafood, shelf-stable meals, compressed rations, bottled water, daily essentials, seasonal clothing, stacked floor to ceiling, organized like a warehouse. 10 backup generators sat ready, along with an independent internal network, so even a total citywide blackout wouldn't touch them. She hated how much she liked watching him work this hard for her. You put a lot into this. 10 years and you actually grew up. Careful, thoughtful. I wasn't expecting that. She thought of her parents suddenly, still traveling abroad, and asked what would happen to them. Ethan's smile turned a little smug. He said he'd already reached out to her parents and her sister. Otherwise, how would he have tracked her down through however many times she'd moved? He'd pulled strings to get them settled somewhere with a cooler, high-altitude climate, conveniently far from the worst of it. Her phone rang the second he finished talking. Her parents, on video, both talking over each other before she'd even picked up. Her dad asked immediately if Ethan had found her yet. Ethan leaned into frame with an easy smile. "I'm right here, sir. Everything's under control on my end. I'll take good care of her. Nothing's going to happen to her." Her parents nodded along, satisfied, telling him they were trusting him with her.
"Everything's set up here too. If we go dark for a while, don't worry. I'll do everything I can to keep her safe." He said it while quietly taking her hand, and when she glanced over at him, her breath caught before she could stop it. She told her parents to take care of themselves, that everything on her end was fine. Her sister shoved into frame a second later, voice sharp. "Wow, calling my sister and not me? You little punk! If you don't treat her right, I'm coming back to deal with you myself." Ethan looked briefly caught out. "Don't worry. This time around, I'm not letting her go no matter what." The way he looked at her when he said it made her face burn straight through, and she was pretty sure she'd gone the color of a tomato. Okay, that's enough out of everyone. I'm starving. Ethan, make me some barbecue." "On it. No problem at all." After they ate, they swung by her old apartment to grab a few personal things, though there wasn't much left to grab. Skincare, daily items, a full seasonal wardrobe, he'd already stocked all of it for her. They spent the rest of the evening making one more supply run, just to be thorough. The next morning, Riley woke up restless, and it took her half the day to realize why. She was bored. She leaned against the kitchen doorway, arms crossed, watching Ethan make breakfast. "Are you planning to just sit around here annoying me until the disaster hits?" He paused mid-motion, immediately catching his own oversight. "After breakfast, let's go get something fun. Gaming console, tablet, whatever you want. My mistake. I'll cover it." Fine. Today it's all coming out of your pocket." After breakfast, they drove straight to the mall and bought 2 high-end computer setups, a stack of gaming consoles, even a couple of the retro handhelds she used to love as a kid, plus extra hard drives for storage. The tablet came home loaded with every show she wanted to binge. He paid for all of it, every swipe, and she didn't spend a cent. It felt undeniably great. Food, supplies, entertainment, backup power, everything was finally in place. All that was left was to hunker down in the house and wait for the disaster to arrive. After his rebirth, Ethan had quit his overseas job for good. His family had money enough to spare, and the two of them settled into a slower kind of life. Gaming, movies, music, days blending together. He cooked something new for her most days. Life, honestly, was good. 20 days came and went the way Ethan had promised, and then the sky finally kept its word. It started with heavy rain, the sky pressing low and gray, temperatures dropping hard enough to feel like a cold snap. Riley almost laughed. Some doomsday if it was this cold. Until she caught Ethan already watching the thermal readouts, unsurprised. "Cold first," she said slowly, remembering. "You told me that." He nodded, not looking up. Not long after, exactly as he'd said it would, the air flipped without warning, turning bone dry and suffocating, like every trace of moisture had been sucked out of the atmosphere in an instant. Ethan had already switched on every thermal system in the house, backup generators included, and he thought it through carefully. Worried the equipment would burn out under sustained extreme heat, he'd stocked duplicate units so they could rotate, giving each machine time to rest and keeping their comfort steady no matter how long this lasted. One night in the second week, the primary unit tripped anyway, the lights flickering out for 4 long seconds before backup caught the load. Riley found herself gripping his sleeve in the dark before she could stop herself, and neither of them said anything about it once the lights came back. They caught most of what came next through the last flickering broadcasts, huddled in front of the screen with the sound turned low, watching a version of the world neither of them could touch. Within 2 weeks, the anchor said, global temperatures had spiraled out of control. Forecasts had gone useless.
Street thermometers on camera climbed past 140, then 150, then 175 degrees before the equipment failed outright. Riley watched asphalt blister and swallow tires on someone else's dashboard footage. Metal railings warped scalding hot in the background of every clip. Trees along the streets burned down to bare, brittle stalks, ash lifting with every gust of wind. The reports came in pieces after that. Power had gone first, transformers catching fire one after another until blackouts swept the grid, air conditioners and refrigerators dying together, frozen foods spoiling within the half hour. Elevators had stopped mid-shaft, turning into sealed ovens. Water went next, the anchor said, pipes bursting under the heat until every high-rise in the city lost running water. Survivors packed around the last working water points, and orderly lines dissolved into shoving within minutes. Stores were stripped bare on camera. People went down on the pavement and no one stopped. Security had already fled, alarms screaming under the noise of the crowd. The footage showed streets locked in permanent gridlock, cars abandoned or still trapped with people inside, ambulances that couldn't move at all. Somewhere off frame, electrical fires spread unchecked. Then the feed crackled, stuttered, and went silent for good. And after that, there was nothing left to watch at all.
None of it touched the house. Outside was a different world entirely, but for Riley and Ethan, it barely registered. They kept eating 3 meals a day, kept burning through shows and games, let the days pass at their own unhurried pace. The generators held, mostly, and the internal network stayed steady. And every so often they video called her parents just to check in. On the slower afternoons, she let him do her skincare routine, lying back with a sheet mask on while he fussed over her, and the days rolled by in something close to peace. Neither of them had said out loud that they were back together, but the shape of it had settled between them without discussion. He was the steadiest thing in her life right now, and the easiest person to spend a day with. If he hadn't come back to find her, she knew exactly how her story would have ended, and there was no version of that outcome she could have survived alone. Whatever had gone unsaid between them 10 years ago didn't matter anymore. The present was enough. The rest could sort itself out later. The days kept repeating, calm folding into calm, until nobody could say exactly how long they'd endured the heat before the turn finally came. Quiet and unannounced. Thick black cloud cover swallowed the sun whole. The sky sank into a heavy gray, and the first drops of rain hit the cracked, scorched ground, hissing into white steam, before the real downpour broke loose. The city lay in ruins beneath it, but the temperature finally dropped back into a range a person could survive. Survivors stepped out of hiding, cautious, blinking against the daylight. Some tilted their faces up into the rain, eyes red-rimmed, months of held-back feeling finally breaking loose in the storm. People started clearing rubble on their own, repairing power lines, trading whatever supplies they had left. Life crept back into the streets in fits and starts, and somewhere in the wreckage, the first green shoots pushed up through the ash. Rescue teams moved through the ruined city with loudspeakers, registering survivors, distributing supplies, arranging shelter for anyone still displaced. People gathered themselves in slow clusters, and the order that had collapsed weeks earlier began, piece by piece, to come back. The city started over in the rain. Sometime later, her parents and her sister flew back in. Riley and Ethan drove out to the airport to meet them, and the whole family folded into one long, tight embrace after months apart. She laughed, looking around at the people she loved most, then turned to find Ethan already watching her, standing right where he always was.
Thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed this, consider subscribing for more. We'll see you next time. See ya!